Hi, Veronique.
Bonjour Agathe.
I like your lipstick. I should have lipstick too. Anyway,
That's the
so
Zoom
thank
tradition, the red lipstick.
Yeah. Thank you for joining me. And we're going to be welcoming participants. And I see the numbers are coming. So you'll see there's a list of participants who are going to go. And I want to welcome everybody and especially tell everybody that you'll have a chance to ask questions. So the timeline of this webinar is that I'm going to go with Veronique into a few questions about her. I want to hear about her purpose. I want to hear about how she has been so heart-centered in her leadership because it's quite spectacular. And I want to go into that, and you'll have plenty of chance to go into questions. So I think our conversation will start for 20 minutes, will last for 20 minutes, and then it's open Q&A for anybody who wants to ask a question to Veronique. You can put the question in the Q&A. You can raise hand if you prefer. If not, I will read your question and Veronique will answer, and we can go on. So I want to start, Veronique, by giving you a few minutes to share who you are in a way, and because everybody has received your bio, so they know who you are, but to hear from your words how you would describe yourself as an executive or as a human being.
Okay, so that's the worst exercise for me, but
Okay.
I'm gonna give it a shot. I think that first and foremost, I would say there's a huge appetite for life in me. I love life,
Mm-hmm.
and because I love life, I think I love people because people are a very important part of life. I love nature
Mm-hmm.
because without nature, there's no life. Um, I love creativity because I think creativity is what makes you alive.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I'm ambitious because I want my life to be more beautiful. I'm generous because I want people's life to be beautiful. Um, and I think there's a big part of me that certainly understands the human nature. I'm super demanding, but I understand human nature because I love life. I think that's it, you know? I
Mm-hmm.
think it can all come down to this.
Yeah. And I've known you for a number of years now, and I think I would agree with everything. I think you're very creative. I think you're ambitious. You give yourself and ambitious, like in wanting to play big. I think that's and generous because I have yeah, seen it. You are always sharing, offering advice, or sharing tips, and thinking of people in some way. So I totally agree. Um, and demanding also. I We have worked together, so I know. So so Veronique, you know that I do this clarity card for candidates, and that I help every candidate who has to face an interview to get clear on who they are. And one of the big pillars of the exercise that we do and the course is purpose. So I wanted to see if we could dive into purpose, because I think, it ties really well into what you just said. You described yourself really into your purpose. And then we'll go more into your leadership, and how it has become more intuitive, how you have started to manage people. And we spoke before, and I know you gave me something that I want to go into, but how do you manage from 2,000 people to 2 people? So that's a big leap. So let's go in. So I wanted to offer the exercise. So the 5 why exercise is basically asking 5 times the question why, so you can go to the root of the problem. It was started by a gentleman called Mr. Toyota, who founded Toyota, the enterprise, because he wanted to know exactly what was the problem. And only by going 5 whys deep were you able to go into the root of the problem. And so it is being adapted in coaching and in many situations of understanding human nature and purpose. So I wanted to ask you this first question, Veronique, on why do you work?
It's pretty much linked to my own business at this point and my own brand, right? So I work because I want to share my work with others, which is perfume.
Mm-hmm. So the next step in the type of question is, why do you want to share your love of perfume?
Um, scent is a very interesting thing, and it's a very interesting sense, and it's one of the most ancient scents we have. It's located in the reptilian brain, which is the brain that connects you with your instincts and your emotions. And the beauty of scent is that it really connects you with the deepest emotion you have, with your core, with your essence. And I think that helping people connect with their own emotions is super exciting to me.
So why would you want people to connect with their own emotions?
Because I think when you liberate your emotions, you're more confident and you live a better life.
And why do you want to people to live a better life?
Because I love life and I want people to love their life. And I think that's, again, I think that's the ultimate goal. If you love your life and if you live your life, you're going to be happier. You're going to fulfill your potential. And if you're happier and fulfill your potential, you'll be much nicer to others.
That's a big goal. I mean, so this is very interesting because the exercise of going deep in your purpose is very important because it anchors people on why they work, right? Because on the tough days, then you know that your higher goal is to make each of your customer happy.
Yeah.
It's not only delivering a great product, but making your customer happy, and it helps go. The stronger your purpose, the stronger your why helps, aim in that. So can I ask you, because people can have different whys.
Mm-hmm.
This one is a very lofty one, but if I go into another question, if you are okay to follow me, but why did you create your own brand?
It's a good question because honestly, first of all, it took me a little while to finally jump onto that entrepreneurial pool because honestly, I had a fabulous career and I could have continued on that fabulous career and make a ton of money, but there was something missing and I wanted to be successful, but in my own way, with my own set of values.
Okay, so the question would be, what are those sets of values that define your success?
Um, to be honest, there's to me to define success, I think that the traditional form of reward of what we call success, self-expression, financial security, um, you know, um, being recognized by your peers and by the public is part of what I call success. But it's not enough to make me happy. For me, success is also making sure that my contribution to the world means something. Okay, so it's not just about my personal success. If I can't help people, if I can't help them be themselves, be more confident about who they are, feel better in their own skin, feel more relaxed or feel more seductive or whatever it is that is important to them at that moment. If I can't bring joy and happiness to people, then my success becomes very lonely. So for me, success is really this idea of personal traditional form of success. You know, I'm not completely immune to the materialistic aspects of success. But at the same time, there's a piece of me that want to make people happy, and there's a piece of me that can't figure out my own success without taking people with me on the journey.
That's beautiful. It's beautiful, and it's interesting that you go that deep, because I think the inclusivity of your success, it's inclusive success in a way.
Yeah.
And it's true that maybe until then success has been measured very personally at an individual level, and that's what is done in companies still. You have to perform, you have certain KPIs you have to match, and so you are creating, or you are embodying this inclusive success, meaning that your success is also dependent of your customers' happiness. I imagine your vendors and your relationship with everybody you work.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
Want to give us a few examples of how it affects the people you work with?
I think, I'm going to give you examples from my previous career, because I think they're easier to understand, because when you are in a very small enterprise, the situation are so different, but in the context of a bigger organization, my philosophy was never to bring in people that would look exactly like I am. Okay, so the idea was always to bring in people of very different backgrounds, of very different skill set, but that would really bring to the table a fundamental part of the puzzle. And all of these people would be linked by a common thread, which was the human values that I wanted my team to share. Because the human values that you share, if you will, if you think of a company like a house, right? The house needs bricks, right? You put the bricks together. In a company, each brick is a certain type of skill, a certain type of perspective, a region, a dimension. But the things that keep the bricks together and prevents the house from crumbling is the cement between them, and that cement is the culture. That cement is the value system that people share. And when I was working, it was very, very important for me to check on that value system. And once this was there, then really the whole idea was to make sure people understood that they were representing a fundamental part of that house, that without them, the house would not stand. But without the others that would work with them, the house would not stand either.
Or would not grow,
So
or would
it
not
was
become
hard.
bigger.
Yeah. And so, I'm not a sports person, so I never do sports analogy, but, it's like when you are in a sports team, you have people that do the attack, you have people that do the defense. And if you don't have both, you lose. So in a team, it's the same. And to me, it was very important to give everybody the same vision, the same goal, make sure that everybody would share the same heart, if you will, the same value system, but value everyone for what they were bringing to the table. So it was not about what they were bringing to me. It was how all of us, including me, would bring to the table.
Okay, so can you, so initially when I started the conversation, we said, you have managed a team of 2,000,
Yeah.
and now you're managing a team of 2. So give us an example of how you manage a team of 2,000, how you created, so in the interview or when you were bringing people on board, how were you making sure that that consistency of value, or what questions would you ask to make sure that people were bringing their values?
Yeah, so a couple of things. I mean, for the team that exists, basically the idea was really to be extremely clear as regard to the common goal and the common vision of the whole. And so you have to be an extremely good communicator to be able to translate that vision emotionally and very concretely in a series of goals that can be split, if you will, depending on what the people have to contribute to it. So the communication is very important. The very fairness of what you expect from people is very important. The ability to coach people, the ability to say to someone, be careful with that or that, without making them feel like, you know, they're not valued, very, very important. So the communication skills, very important. And then when I would bring in people, you know, in a group of as big as I have managed, you can't recruit every person. You can't do it personally. So I would trust deeply my leadership team, if you will, in bringing in each of their department the right person for the job, the right skill set. What I would do, though, for the most important position, not necessarily the junior position, but middle management position, I would meet everyone in their, let's say if they had two that were their short list, I would meet those two people, the two finalists, because I wanted to check that the value system was there. I didn't check on the skill set. I knew my team was perfectly capable of, you know, finding the right skill set. I just wanted to double check that we would bring only people that would share that cement, that value system that I was talking about.
Okay.
And funnily enough, you know, in the interview process, people were very unsettled because I wouldn't spend time on their resume, you know.
So what questions would you ask?
No, because they would be ready to like, vroom, give me the whole thing, you know. But I knew they had gone through that process with not only the person who were going to be their boss, but also human resources and you know. So so it was more about, you know, what took them to that path. How did that path started for them? What was the key moments in their self-construction? Why were they looking for the next opportunity? Why would they want to join us? How would they see their contribution to our company? What was important to them in their job? What was not important to them in their job? So after the first two questions, they get usually much easier. You know, it gets much easier, and people are usually more comfortable answering this kind of question. But I think it's very important, not just for the company that recruits, but also for the person that joins a team, because this is a process that makes you realize if you're going to be happy in that team or not, you know?
Right. Look, I believe that you can only thrive in the right environment. So if you don't know what's the right environment for you, then, you know, you'll work, but you might not thrive.
Yeah.
So I remember when we had an earlier conversation, you talked also about, because that seems very, you know, very beautiful process, but you talked about some of you said something also to me in our conversation. You said you have to also eliminate those who are not helping that culture.
Yeah.
So how did you spot that? And did you have a case that you can, you're rolling your eyes before I finish. Yes. No, because I love these webinars. You know, I think it's very important that people see the leadership, that see, you know, all the brilliant ideas, but concretely also, you know, there are tough times. And I think cultures is a very subtle thing that, you know, can be quickly disrupted by negative leadership or negative values. So
and also culture comes from the top. So I would say that whatever you want from your people, you have to show by your own example, because culture comes from the top. It's not about a ethical code that you can write and put in stone. Culture really, really is about leading by example. So the value you want in your organization, you have to showcase and you know, do it on your own as well, which is really, really important. And sometimes even when you're tired or angry, or you have to remember that everything, and at level of senior leadership, everything you say becomes super important for the people that hear you, mostly with the junior people, because the people are just under you, they know you, they have a lot of time with you, they understand the idiosyncrasies. I had sometimes a creative director that I adore, that in one of my positions built a book of the stupid idiosyncrasies of Veronique Gabai, and we would laugh like crazy. So the people that are close to you, huh? Yeah, I mean, really little little drawings and French, expression that no one would understand, or things that I would say with the wrong accent. I mean, really funny.
Sports analogy with the wrong sports. That's my special.
Exactly. So the people that are just under you, if you have a good working relationship, they're comfortable with you. But when you manage 2,000 people, the person that's really the junior person in your organization might see you once a year, might see you only on a video, might see you only during the speeches, during the big woo-ha corporate, meetings, etc., etc. So everything you say takes so much more importance in their eyes. And so you have to be so careful how you say things, because, again, you could be tired one day and something comes out of your mouth and you're going to hurt like crazy someone because you didn't realize how she took it. So again, the value system comes from the top, and then basically you have to, sometimes you make mistakes, sometimes you recruit the wrong person, and if that wrong person, if the problem is skill set, okay, you try to fix it. If you can't fix it, after a while, after trying really to explain and to coach and to mentor and to give chances, if really the skill set is not there, you need to remove that person, unfortunately, because the inefficiency will weigh down on the whole organization. If the problem you have is not on skill set, but is on culture, then you have a much bigger problem. And that, in my opinion, you have to remove right away, because it is a negative integrator for the team, and it can spiral into situation of negativity, of resentment, of misunderstanding, of miscommunications, of lack of trust, all things that basically can rot an organization.
Okay, so Veronique, I want to go because I think you're offering amazing advice. This advice is because you have so much experience, one, but you are a leader and you have been in leadership position. I want to ask you, in your career, from when you started and you were a junior and you started growing up, when did you start trusting your intuition and become that leader? Like, how did it happen? Like, because we go from, you go position, at one point, it's not all of a sudden, but you have more people under you and you have to embody that leadership. So when did you start trusting your intuition as a leader?
From feeling people, from understanding the value system of people, I have to say I have great intuition. So, even at a young age, some people I would be uncomfortable with, and I didn't know why I was uncomfortable with. Usually it's because the people were really nasty, or they were hiding behind a very nice facade, but they were not good people. So, and you realize it either with the things that they do to you, or the little tricks they play on you, or the tricks they play on others. So you see it. The so when I was young, there was that, you start thinking of, and then when people are really doing damaging things in an organization, that happened to me twice. And in one case, I was pretty young, and it was a very difficult situation, and that taught me a lot. But that's again with people. We can talk about this in a minute. With decision making in the organization, um, for a long, long time, when I was a junior person and, there was discussion that I was participating in or just gladly present at those conversations, and more senior leaders would comment or ask or whatever, I, I realized that I had answers
Mhm.
that turned out to be the right answers for the situation, but I never dared to offer them because I am from a generation where junior people were not, speaking unless asked to. And so it doesn't build necessarily your confidence. I think that the millennial and Generation Z, they're not asking permission. They're going to say whatever comes into their mind, right, wrong, or indifferent, but they're going to say it. In our generation, before you say something, you had to think through that and you had to make sure that you're not saying like the biggest idiotic thing ever.
Yeah.
So I was afraid to fail. That's it. I was afraid to be told, so you stupid girl, because that too would happen in our times. Um, so I didn't speak up, and then after a few years, and quite frankly in my case it's been a long time, I started to really be able to express myself fully and completely and without questioning 20 times what I had in my mind, really in my 40s. Took me time.
So I think it's very interesting you say that because finding your voice is a big step in a professional step.
Mm-hmm.
We're here to, as you said, you start and you work and you work your way up, and millennials are changing a bit the game because they're going a bit faster. But finding your voice, finding able to stand in your purpose, like you said, and in your voice is very important. But you took it a step further because you created a brand with your own name on it.
Mm-hmm.
So after being in the perfume industry for 20 plus years, right,
Mm-hmm.
and a big roles, etc., you are putting your neck out to create your own brand with your own name on it, from your own region, from the south of France. So that must be also a big jump, no? Do you want to?
Very big jump.
Very, how was it? Did you fear also? Because I imagine, because maybe you didn't fear anymore about talking, but
At the end of the day, I realized I'm a real chicken. I mean, my whole thing, my whole life, I've been, plagued by fear. But yeah,
the fear of failing is the biggest fear. And
I,
actually, it's almost the fear of success, the fear that potentially you could be successful. We sabotage ourselves. That's the thing. Like in
but
psychology, we tend to sabotage ourselves. So
yeah, but it's interesting because yes, I mean, I had in me from a very young age, I had in me the idea that I would never depend on anyone or anything, including organization, right? I never had in my head the mentality of just doing a job because that job would give me a salary which would allow me to live my life. This is not how I was thinking. And I'm not saying that everybody has to think this way. There's a lot of people that find a beautiful balance in just making a transactional thing with their job because their real life is somewhere else. And that's okay. For me, self expression is so important to my own self and to
DNA.
my own being that work became really one of the most important way to express myself. Okay, so in my head I never had, even in my early 20s, I never had the mentality of okay, I'm going to do what I'm told to do. I would always try to understand what I was doing in the greater perspective of the company and how my contribution would work with others in order to do something that was bigger than me. And so I wanted to understand that bigger perspective. I wanted to get there to get that bigger perspective, if it makes sense.
Yeah.
And as I grew into the organizations that I was recruited in or promoted in, um, I always looked at the interest of the company before my own. And I think the people that own those companies realized it. And suddenly there was a level of trust, because sometimes, you know, I was in a situation where I say my division should be spun off. My division is underperforming, will always be underperforming. I can take it to that level, but I will never take it to the level you want to get to unless we do this, this, and that, which meant fire me. Okay. So, but it creates a level of partnership rather than employeeship, if you will. You know,
Okay, so I'm going to say a tiny thing, because what you're describing is what we call entrepreneurs. So it's the mindset of entrepreneurs inside companies. So
yeah.
it's really this entrepreneur mindset, meaning that you are involved in the company as if it was your own,
Yeah.
making decisions or speaking out, you know, as it was your own, and not just showing up as you said, for transactional, which for whatever reason might be a good time.
And that was already when I was a young marketer at L'Oréal. It was always the mentality. So I think in me, very young, there was always the wish, the want, the capability to be on my own. And I knew I would end up on my own. It took me a long time. It took me a long time because I had my son and I wanted to raise my son, and I didn't want to mix everything together, you know, building a company, raising a boy, you know. Um, I wanted to make sure there was financial security in our household because I was the primary breadwinner at some point, you know, in the household. So I wanted to make sure we would be all safe. Then my parents aged and it was really tough. And I was traveling between the US and France. And the idea of bringing another layer to that complexity was like, I just can't think of it, you know? And so I ended up really feeling like, okay, now is the time, for two reasons. Now was the time because suddenly my son was ready to go. He was still in high school, but honestly, on, you know, good. We say sur les rails in French, right? It was in pole position. Uh, my parents were no longer there. I had secured financial security for the family. Um, so I felt secure. And on the other end, in my corporate career, my next logical step would have to become the CEO of a public company. And I had offers. I really did have beautiful offers. And suddenly, evaluating those offers, I was like, but this is not what I want to do. I don't want to have to deal with Wall Street every quarter. I hate it. I hate it. And so suddenly, and that's just one of the example. As you grow into this kind of organization, your role becomes much more strategic, which I adore, much more organizational design, which I like. Um, it becomes way more financial and fiduciary, which I don't like. And you lose track of the creative juice that you need to bring in because you can't. Your role is to really make sure that the financial health of the company is there. And so all of your time is dedicated to that. And I was losing the connection with people, and I was losing the creative juice that really is the way that I take my energy. And I was like, I can't do that for another 15 years. I'm going to die. Yes, my office is becoming bigger and bigger and bigger every year, but my soul is shrinking and shrinking and shrinking. And so at one point, the risk of not jumping into the entrepreneurial pool was becoming bigger than doing it, you know? And so I decided to go.
So there's so many things when you talk that go through my mind, even though I'm trying to really be so clear and here to listen to you. But you triggered a few thoughts. One of them that I think I read a few years ago, that one of the best times for people to start a new company is actually past in their 50s, because, and that's where most successful entrepreneurs are, because they don't have either the burden of a family or the burden of security or you know, or having found their voice. So kudos to you and to the success that will come.
No, I think I'm very average. Sometimes I wish I had started it, in my 20s or 30s. At least I would be blind to the risk and the difficulties. I would just power through them. But yes, it's at times challenging, but at the same time, you feel like you can take it on because you have the experience.
Yeah. And the second thing is, I think, when you said work is the most important way to express myself, I think that's a beautiful way to talk about ambition, because ambition for women is often, oh my God, she's pushy, she's ballsy, she's whatnot. But I've heard it all. But the thing is, like, I think it's a beautiful way. Some people love to express themselves, through so many different ways, but work, I think, is a great way to want to express yourself. I mean, as a recruiter, I think it's one of the most common ways to express itself these days, because it also aligns with financial independence. So it makes sense. So I have one last question, because I know there's questions that are open and starting, but I have one more last question, because you said something super funny. You said, okay, so you went from 2,000 people to 2 people management, and said you went from your big corner office to the office in the corner. So tell us what it is like
in the corner. Yeah.
Tell us what it is to be a startup, what it is like to be a startup, which are the parts you're enjoying, which are the parts that are more difficult, and how do you keep that strategy that you, having had such a vision for big companies, into a smaller early.
The vision is big, and you said that I have, my ambition is to build big things, and it's there. I think the challenge when you have a startup, and really at this point it's really a startup in infancy, is that you have to accept the constraints of time. It's not just about the constraints of money, it's also the constraints of time. Money is obviously a fundamental piece that is somewhat a limitation, okay, because you can't do it all. You don't have the bandwidth, the financial bandwidth to do it all. So you have to really focus on what is essential, what is fundamental, what is the most important for the time that you're in at that moment, and then hoping that you will move towards greater possibilities as the cells are growing as well. But time is also a constraint, and to me that was the most obvious, the biggest surprise, because money I knew, I've launched brand, I've launched companies always with the money of others, okay, but I knew what it is to basically, work on a shoestring. I knew what it is. So that did not surprise me. What truly surprised me, and I did not had that recollection before really being in it, is that your own time is limiting your ability to do everything you want. Because in the field that we're in, and I'm sure it's true of other categories, but I'm going to talk only about the categories that I know well, which is fashion, luxury, beauty. In this kind of categories, 20% is strategy, 80% is execution. And if you execute poorly, the whole edifice, the whole building of this will crumble under your hands.
Yeah.
And so execution takes time. Execution is time hungry. It's energy sucking and it's time sucking.
And details.
Yeah, because it's all about those details that you have to take care of. And so you have to accept to limit your capacities, because your brain capacity is huge, but your capacity to execute can only fit in 24 hours a day. And so you have to limit yourself to be able to execute properly and push out the things that are not the most important. And to me, it's very frustrating, because I see what my brand can look like. I do, but I can't get there yet. So, it's okay, take a deep breath, and let's build it, one nail at a time. So it's a little bit that.
Yeah, it's craftsmanship. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I have two questions that I'm going to read out loud. And somebody obviously who knows your work. She says, I love the work Veronique is doing, and her words are beautiful and inspiring. Such a great example for women and young women. After having an incredible career, what is it like to start over with your own brand, doing something with such an amazing and positive impact, especially for women?
That's very nice. I'm happy that whoever wrote this question see it this way, because that's what I want to do, right? It's to give a little bit of positivity to the women around.
And maybe for those who don't know, if you can tell what you just launched, the perfume.
Oh yeah, sure. My last
Because
perfume. So the whole brand is about an escape to the Côte d'Azur, and through the product you have a connection, a deep connection with nature that gives you well-being, really. And through that well-being, you can express your personality. So it's really an amazing escape, well-being, type of work. And that those fragrances are not about your social life per se, even though it's part of your social life, but it's not about your social self. It really is about yourself. So that's one thing. And so recently, I mean, for Women's Day, we've just launched my new fragrance, which is all about women and all about the beauty of women, the beauty of their bodies, their beauty of their sensuality. And it's an homage to the pleasure that women feel and want to express. And it's seen through the eyes of a loving woman and not through the eyes of a man, for once. And this fragrance is called Le Point G, which translates into the G spot, okay? Because we have to say it, we have to find it, and we have to be the first to get it.
I'm all for that. That's fantastic.
But to go back to the question from the person who asked, um, the reason, I mean, I left because, again, I wanted to express myself. I wanted to build something in my own set of values. I wanted to give pleasure, joy, and confidence to people. And, the only way that I know how to do it is through the products that I create. And I know the power of products. Beautiful beauty products really can make a difference in your life. It's interesting because I just read a study that says that there's more than 30, about 38, 39% of people that consider that beauty helps them reduce their stress. It's amazing.
I mean, I agree because, just a clean desk
Yeah.
is easier. Sometimes just, 3 flowers makes your day easier and nice. So it's absolutely true that beauty has a purpose.
And so that's why I did that. And really, I mean, at the end of the day, it's all about, infusing life with joy and making people feel better about themselves.
Okay. So there's another question that is a bit more maybe on the other side of the spectrum. How do you explain that huge companies in retail fashion are successful in numbers and turnover, even if they treat very poorly their employees and do not communicate any clear value system nor human culture?
You can be very successful in a very dysfunctional environment. And if you've been working in fashion, there's rarely more dysfunctional environment, and yet there's incredible success. But that success is usually in waves, and it's usually groups of people that bring that success to a certain level, and then there's another group of people that come, and then there's another group of people that come, because this kind of system is cannibalistic. Okay, it eats people alive. So unless you create for yourself a very tough personality and a very you know
Strict boundaries?
yeah, or you create really important boundaries, you can't survive in an environment like that for quite long. Um, but if human values, if kindness were the common thread in the world, you wouldn't have the wars that we have, you wouldn't have the greed that we have, you wouldn't have the common thread of what the world has become. So I think it's the responsibility of anyone that comes into that pool to try to change it at whatever level we can change it. And some organizations have built it around those sets of values. And even though it's not Pollyanna, or holy God likely every day, it is usually, I mean, I come from an organization, I was at the Estee Lauder companies, and the value system of that company is, compared to many others, beautiful. Okay. It's not perfect, but compared to others, it's like, wow, they do a lot for people. So you can achieve it at a very big level.
Mm-hmm.
And when you're an entrepreneur, then you have to, from day one, infuse it in the way you work, and how you deal with people.
Well, that's exactly another question from Monique. Hi, Monique. Veronique, the passion for what you do is clear. What is the best piece of advice you were given as a woman entrepreneur, and what advice would you share with women entrepreneurs over 50?
So the best advice that I got was once when I was not an entrepreneur yet. So I'm going to share it with you because it is actually not necessarily an advice that can be formulaic, but you will understand why I'm sharing that moment. I was actually a marketer at L'Oréal, and I was given quite young a pretty big responsibility because I was named in my 20s the vice president for Giorgio Armani perfumes. And my boss at the time, who was the president of the luxury division of L'Oréal, I think he got me completely, and he told me, Veronique, you're a creative person. So you will not be happy if you don't have creativity in your life.
Beautiful.
But you're also someone who likes to make the shot, who likes to call the shot, who likes to make decision. And if you don't have that decision power in your life, you're going to be resentful. Therefore, I advise you to take the path of management so you can make the decision and do it in a place where creativity is at the heart of management. Okay. So working in fashion and beauty, obviously, where creativity is all that you do, because without creativity, you can't have a business, was perfect for me. And I found my passion in it, really. So that was perfect. The reason I'm giving you this example is that what this man was doing with me is showing to me a mirror of myself and allowing me to understand who I was. And I think the biggest advice that I could give anyone, and it's not an easy task, and it took me years to accept who I am completely, is know who you are. Know who you are and what makes you happy and what makes you super angry. Because sometimes you can live with things that would make someone else super angry, but for you, okay, you can brush it off and go on, and that's okay. Because also what makes you happy is there. You're going to be super happy in that context. So you need to know who you are. You need to know what you can live with and what is the red line in the sand for you, because you can't cross it.
Veronique, it's, I should have, well, thank God we're recording this, because I'm going to go back, because that's exactly what we do in the course. My belief is that you cannot be successful if you don't know yourself.
Mm-hmm.
A candidate has to know himself. What are his skills? And that's what we do. What do you do, how you do it, why you do it, and where you're going.
Mm-hmm.
And that self-knowledge is even more important when things are out of control like they are today. In the 50s, you got a job, you went employee, women were certain jobs, and so that's what it was. So I think it's very important to be able to acknowledge your likes and dislikes very early so that you can be in the right environment. I always say, I can't put a cactus in Finland. They're not going to be happy. If you are a cactus, you have to be in the desert. If you're an oak tree, you need to be in a forest. It's finding your soil, finding works for you. I have one question from Corina. Hello, Veronique. Thanks so much. A very concrete question. Where is the best place to experience your fragrance? It sounds wonderful and I would love to try them. Can we talk about what's happening this week, Veronique?
Yeah, sure. So Corina, if you're living in New York City, we're launching Le Point G at Bergdorf Goodman right now. So if you go to Bergdorf Goodman, you can try all of my fragrances, obviously, but you will see the brand a little bit everywhere in the store because they're launching it. So I am on the ground floor at the beauty level, but also on the second floor. So, but in any case, Bergdorf Goodman is a good place if you live in Manhattan or in New York. If you are not in Manhattan, I would say that, if you go to my website, there's a major sampling program on the website just for people like you, Corina. If you're not in Manhattan and you can't experience physically the brand, you can at least start with sampling or with a discovery set that will allow you to try my fragrances, and then we reimburse the discovery set on your purchase. So it's a minimal amount of risk.
And they come in this lovely little package and you get to try every single fragrance. And especially one thing that Veronique does is she has two fragrances. One is called Eau du Jour and Eau de la Nuit that you can superimpose on the other fragrance. And if you're in New York and in Bergdorf, I know, Veronique, you're going to be there maybe tomorrow,
Friday.
Wednesday.
Yeah, maybe tomorrow, but surely Friday. But tomorrow, Agathe, if you want to go, we go together. But
I'm going tomorrow because I won't be here Friday, but I'm going tomorrow.
Okay, let me know when, and I will join you.
Well, we'll find. Answer. Mariana is asking, hi, Veronique, why another line of perfume? Isn't it saturated?
It's completely saturated, Mariana. And here's the thing. The things that we do when you work, again, in fashion, in beauty, in fragrance, you're not answering needs, okay? Nobody needs another lipstick. Nobody needs another fragrance. Nobody needs another white t-shirt. Nobody. What you do is you create something that hopefully people will want because they make you feel better, because they make you feel more sexy, because they make you feel more confident, because it allows you to express your personality, because it's an escape and a way to trigger your own emotions. So I'm trying to create that want through the escape and the beauty and the quality and the connection to nature. I'm trying to give it also some points of differences, to give it a reason for being beyond the desirability of the brand. So we're trying to do good through the brand. We're trying to have some elements of sustainability that gives a point of difference, and because I do believe in it. And as Agathe was mentioning, we're trying to help people express their own personality through the scent. And one of this tool is, the booster fragrances that help you personalize your own signature. So you don't have to become a chemist or a perfumer, but you can play and find your own signature. Or we have a personality test on our website that is based on the science of kinesthetics, which means the correspondence between the senses. So, it's so hard to pick a fragrance, but it's much easier for people to say what color they like, or what food they prefer, or what music they like to listen to. And through those questions, we can curate a much smaller choices of fragrance for you that really fit your personality. So we're trying to do that. So maybe it's enough, maybe it won't be enough, we'll see. But yes, it's horribly saturated, but you know what? I love it. And in my 50s, if I do a business, it has to give me joy.
Thank you, Veronique, and I put your website down. So there's more questions, so as long as you're answering question and clicking, but there's 3 more questions. So let's see, 4 or 5 coming. So maybe if we answer a bit more quickly those.
Okay, I'll try.
No, because we're already almost 2 o'clock. But so, what advice would you give to people looking for leadership position in this challenging job market? What do you think puts a candidate ahead in this times?
I don't know that there's something putting you ahead in this time. I think that what Agathe was mentioning and was I was trying to say is that the fit is the most important thing. And some people are very taken by positions that are glitzy or beautiful, or companies that look like they are the company to be in these days. When I was young, it was Procter and Gamble. I hated it. Today it's Google. I'm not sure that everybody is made for Google. So the fit is really important. So I would study a little bit the offers that you find, and see which one correspond your personality, correspond your value system, and where you can you can fit in the best possible way. So fit is important, I think, more so than getting ahead.
Thank you. You mentioned a difficult episode of value disruption within a company you worked for at the beginning of your career. Could you please let us know what impact this experience had on you, lessons you learned, and how you turned it as a positive outcome for you despite the difficulty of the situation?
It was extraordinarily difficult because I had to remove from that organization somebody that was very powerful in that organization. I joined that organization as a head of marketing, communication, product development, and that person was the creative director, and that person was abusing, not physically, obviously, but was really abusing the system and was really nasty to people. And in an organization where creativity is so important, I can tell you that it was hardly a popular move. But I had to prove that another way was possible, because you can't just go and complain about things. You have to offer a solution that's viable. And by offering an alternative solution that was really viable, I got the buy-in of management to do that move. And then you have no idea the number of people that came after that thanking me about removing that individual, because that individual had made their life a misery. And at one point I was like, but why didn't you say it? Why didn't you mention it? Why do you wait for a newcomer to do it? People are sucked in something, and little by little they accept and accept and accept and accept and accept a situation that is intolerable. So anyway, but that was really difficult. It took a lot of energy, it took a lot of courage, and yeah, it was tough. But what I learned from it is that, again, that's what I was saying at the beginning of the talk, is if someone is lacking from a skill set perspective, I am believing that this can be taught, this can be learned, this can be coached. If someone deep inside doesn't have the human values that help foster an organization, that person has to go, because that person is only a negative integrator.
Thank you. Will says, absolutely brilliant mission. Do you have plans to bring genderless scents to the market and possibly disrupt the market with your concept to spread joy through scent and making the experience sensory?
So the scents are already genderless. They have no gender, because I believe that if you like it, it's yours. Because with scent, again, it connects you to your own emotion. Who's to say that you should be liking this type of scent and not this type? So you smell it. If you like it, it's yours. At the end of the day, it's that simple. So all my scents are genderless. The pushing the idea of sensory and the power of scent, yes, we're doing it. And we're doing it today with what we have. We explaining to people how the core ingredient in the core of the formulas act and react, and how they are linked with the chemistry of your own skin and what is the effect that they can have on you. There's a big component of escape in the line, the way that it exists. But this idea of scent benefit is something that I am pushing and developing as we speak. So stay tuned.
Yes, and I know a little bit about it, so, and it's very exciting. And I have to say, it's very interesting with your perfume, maybe because I'm French and I have been a few summers in the south of France when I was younger, but it creates memories because there's such strong, when you smell the fig, or, I mean, some of your perfumes are very, bring you back to childhood memories,
Yeah.
brought me back. And so there was a very immense joy because, you don't know when it came, but it was joy when you smell it. It just, triggered joy. We have one message from, which more message from Veronique Ristori. Thank you for inspiring us both, Veronique and Agathe, another Veronique. I'm very interested about women who inspired you in your life. If there's any.
There's many. So I'm going to just tell you the two that to me were my heroes when I was a kid. And it might surprise you, but hey, I'm going to tell you. I was fascinated by Cleopatra. Fascinated. And in the Greek mythology, the goddess that I loved the most was Athena. Athena was the goddess of warfare, philosophy, wisdom, and she was the only one that could sit next to Zeus. Okay. She was the counterpart of Zeus. So I loved Athena. I'm a feminist, if you can tell. Okay. And then as I grew up, there's a few women that really, really, really were important in my life. I think that my mother has been an incredible influence in my life. And at one point, I thought a very negative influence. I really, was fighting her. But at the end of the day, I am more like her than I want to admit. She was a tremendous influence in my independence, in my determination, in my ambition, and in my culture. And then in my work, there were a couple of women that I thought was just unbelievable. In France, there's a woman who, to me, was the woman I wanted to become, and that's Chantal Ross. Mm-hmm. I don't know if you've heard of Chantal Ross, but Chantal Ross is quite extraordinary in the world of fragrance. She was the one who created opium. She was the one who managed Saint Laurent. Then after Saint Laurent, she was the founder of BPI, the division of fragrance of Shiseido. To me, Chantal was, this mix of femininity and determination, and I wanted to be her. And I'm lucky today that we serve on the same board. So I'm super happy that I can spend time with Chantal. And then there's other women in the profession that I really loved very much. One of them was Evelyn Lauder. Evelyn was, talk about an entrepreneur, because, you think of Estée Lauder the way that it is today. And of course, when you think of Lauder, you think of Estée Lauder. Estée Lauder was a fourth, obviously. Leonard Lauder, his son, really built the vision of his mother and the vision and the company. Evelyn was at the side of Leonard every step of the way. And she did it in her own quiet way because she let her husband be the hero. But Evelyn was just, I loved her. I absolutely loved her.
Amazing. That's incredible. And I love Cleopatra and Athena. I think we had the same heroes. I went for the first time to Egypt last year. So it was my dream to go. So we have two more questions. So I know that some people might be leaving, but it's so fascinating. So I'm going to go through them. And I want to thank everybody who came in and asked these questions and got all these amazing response from Veronique. So do you think there's room for blending creativity and business in industries outside of fashion and beauty?
Not only is there room, there's a mission to do it, because we're living in a world that is in transition. Okay, we're in a world that the only thing that we can be sure of is that the world will change, that whatever we know today will change tomorrow. That's the only thing we can be sure of. Okay, the only thing we can be sure of is change. And in order to, grab change and be successful in changing environment, you have to have in your head the capacity to absorb that change. The only way you do it is by being flexible and being creative, because it's not about what you have learned 10 years ago that's going to help you tomorrow, So creativity has to be part of business going forward. A creative solution for any problem that you have has to be part of business management. Thinking recruitment in a creative way, like you do, Agathe. I always say that Agathe is super creative in the way that she thinks recruitment, because she doesn't think necessarily about the job and what it requires, but how the candidate can embrace that job and make it whatever it needs to be. So creativity has to be part of everything we do. And if we don't have creativity in business today, don't start a business. Forget it. The business will not survive.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, it keeps on coming. So I'm going to continue.
I love it.
I'm going to hard stop at 2:10, or no, not 2:10, 2:15.
Yeah, 2:15 is fine. It's okay, but I'm here with you.
Thank you. And now I think people can understand why, if Veronique has Chantal Ross, I have my own Veronique Gabai. I can get to speak, because it's true that, these are the conversations I love to have. I could have millions of those, because it's important to reinforce what creativity is, to reinforce that, that women are taking challenges, that there are some difficult things that we have to do in order to secure the values of a company. It's important to share those. I love that you said that, it's not only a necessity, it's a mission. It's not only a possibility, it's a mission. Thomas said, what does innovation look like in the beauty industry today? What does it mean for you? I'll add, your candle set with both scents is a wonderful idea.
Thank you. Well, I think creativity can take a lot of different form, mostly in our category. For me, creativity was about really making sure that in everything I was creating, you would have both luminosity and sensuality. Because I think in every individual, there's a part of us that shows to the world a portion of us, and there's a part of us that needs to be kept mysterious and vulnerable. So the idea of balancing act between the light and the mystery is, and that's why you have two candles in my candle set. That's why you have eau du jour and eau de la nuit, because eau du jour is what you bring to the world, eau de la nuit is what you keep for yourself. So, this is one element. The idea of personalizing the signature through that is one element. I think that, there's many more ways that you can think of innovation. I think that bringing, fragrance in a packaging that is no longer a bottle, but a piece of jewelry is also an element of innovation. So, you travel light, you make a statement of style with a piece of jewelry, but at the same time, it contains fragrance. So there's many different forms of creativity in the formula itself, in the delivery system, in the way that you integrate a greater mission of sustainability in it. That's more difficult if you don't want to be just superficial. And honestly, for me, I had to, my brand is not 100% sustainable today, but it has component of sustainability, and most importantly, social responsibility, which to me is even more important at this point of my development than environmental impact, because I'm so small that my environmental impact anyway won't make a lot of difference, but my ethical impact can make a ton of difference. So there's different ways to do it. I am working right now on formulation that are extremely innovative. I can't speak much more about that, but that is a type of innovation that takes years in research and development. So, it was not ready at launch, and I was not ready at launch for it. So, again, formulation, delivery system, business model, For example, in our website, we do a ton of sampling and the discovery set that can be redeemable on your next purchase. That's an innovation in itself, but this time in business modeling. So there's a lot of ways that you can think of innovation.
Thank you. And the last question is actually a thank you. So thank you, Agathe and Veronique, for such an inspiring talk. Enjoyed listening to you very much. And that was from Solange Storm.
Thank you. Thank you.
So I want to conclude. I want to thank you immensely, Veronique, because
merci, Agathe. Merci à toi.
You have really integrated your passion with your work, and your passion kind of shines through your work, and I know it's part of you, and I think it's very inspiring. I mean, it inspires me to bring more of that, aliveness. I think that's one thing when you said very early is like, how do you be alive? Because, how can you be vibrant? And I think you have that vibrancy. So thank you. I'll be there tomorrow at Bergdorf. I'll be spraying myself and hopefully see you there. And, thank you, everyone. And I look forward to see you. So just so you know, we have another great guest, which is in 2 weeks, which is Xavier Salomon, who's the chief curator of the Frick collection, who's going to share with us, yes, because he created during the pandemic when the Frick was closed, Cocktail with a Curator, which garnered 1 million views on YouTube.
Wow, amazing.
Yes. So you want to hear, and all from innovation, because, the museum was closed and he started having cocktail and talking about an art, a piece of art. So that's one thing. And also, if you want to gain clarity, we have the course, the Clarity course. And you don't have to be alone during the course, because I give a Q&A every Wednesday at 6 p.m. as part of the course. So welcome you there. And again, thank you, Veronique. I put the website of Veronique, but do go on her email and sign up for her newsletter, because she has the most wonderful newsletters and the most beautiful pictures. And it's eye candy for sure. So merci.
Merci à vous tous. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us. It really is a real pleasure. Thank you, Agathe, for the opportunity.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Have everybody a happy Tuesday, and we'll see you soon.
Thank you. Bye.